Shankara Keshavam Vadarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krito Vande Bhagavantau Punaha Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shanti 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 Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. So, in the Sutra number 4, we started taking baby steps in sadhana. Of course, we are in the Anavopaya. We have already discussed about a lot of concepts and how to meditate and this and that, the Sambhopaya and Shaktopaya. Now we are dealing with the basics. That's why it's considered to be the foundation of all spiritual sadhana. As we are progressing towards, in a certain sense, the reunification of the individual consciousness in a way that it transforms itself or rediscovers its universal nature. The individual rediscovers itself as the universal. The limited rediscovers itself as unlimited, expansive. So, the fourth sutra, as we said, Sarire Sangharaha Kalanam. So, all these limited ideas and aspects that in this body, in the Sarira, how you have to dissolve everything to transcend. So, that we have already dealt with. So, I don't want to sort of repeat everything that we have already done. Here, the next step is about what do you mean by the Sanghara, by the way? How does it happen? Where to start? So if we look at the Yoga Sutras and the yogic practices, and there are a lot of Kashmiri Saivism in a way combines the philosophical insights of Upanishads and also Vedanta in a way, and some of the techniques from Tantra and Yoga. So the methodology of transformation, how to manipulate, transform, change, alter our concentration and our consciousness, these techniques are coming from Tantra and Yoga. So they are combining together. And a lot of other very conceptual tools they are taking from, let's say, some people would say heavily influenced in a way from the philosophy of language of Bhartrihari. So, it's like a meeting point of insights and theories and concepts from different schools of thought. There are certain ideas of Buddhism also present in Kashmiri Shaivism. So, here, the fifth sutra, if you look at it, is saying Nadi Sanghara Bhuta Jaya Bhuta Kaibalya Bhuta Pruthaktwani. So, it's like just widow words. There is no verb, there is no sentence, there are just 5 words mentioned. Nadi Sanghara, Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Kaivalya, Bhuta Pruthaktwani. So he's trying to explain what is Nadi Sanghara, and he's trying to explain Nadi Sanghara as Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Kaivalya, and Bhuta Pruthaktva. That would be, in a very nutshell, the meaning of it. And I'll remind us ourselves to draw our attention back to the first chapter. You remember in the first chapter, the 20th sutra, there would be a counter reference here also. He's saying Bhuta Sandhana, Bhuta Prithaktva, Vishwa Sanghataha. We have done this sutra. This is the 20th sutra in the first chapter, in the Sambhavopaya. So these are some of the siddhis of a guy who is adept at practicing Sambhavopaya. He's reached there, and what he can do, Bhuta Sandhana. So he's saying very briefly, because I don't want to repeat again, but you can always look up in the YouTube list and go and check what we had discussed there. Basically, even without much food, much biological support, with great yogic power, an apparently weak person hmm, is able to master tremendous power. He accesses energy from different sources and can manifest things. Bhuta Sandhana. And then Bhuta Prithakva. So suddenly he is able to distinguish, segregate, protect, quarantine himself from whatever is happening around. Of course, that's a very basic yogic technique. So Bhuta Prithakva. It could be a disease, it could be some kind of ailment, they can be given some poison. There are a lot of stories, and they are not affected by it. Nothing happens to them. Then Bhuta Sangadhaha. What is this Bhuta Sangadhaha? So, you are sitting here, but what is happening right now, let's say in Iceland, do you know what's happening? Let's imagine that you heard that there is some kind of there's some bit of a volcanic activity happening in Iceland, in some mountain. They keep happening there. Sitting here, this yogi, with his supreme ability to see things which are physically segregated from him, he reaches out, he knows. He can find out what somebody is thinking. And even during our own times, we have had such people. One such person was Nim Karoli Baba, very qualified, Western educated Americans. They would have no uh, logical justification to exaggerate their own experience. Like, for example, Ramdas. Many of them had some great experience. So this Krishna Das, who has a lot of YouTube channels, he was speaking the other day to some Indian who was doing a podcast. He was saying that one fine morning he suddenly calls him and he says, "Your mom is coming here." He said, "What? Now, is your mom here?" He said, "No." And then somebody informs that somebody had called from US, and this is a number that fellow has given, and he has been asked to ring up this number. He saw this number, he goes and rings up, and his mother picks up the phone. And he says, "I'm coming to India. I want to come to India." And you're shocked. How would a person who doesn't know a word of English sitting in some part of Uttarakhand know about what's an American lady thinking? So these are there. They're quite such siddhis, and these people can display. So this we have done in the verse number 20th in the first chapter. Bhuta Sandhana, that means in the absence of basic minimum biological necessities or support systems which are required for manifesting some activity, some output. The yogis can do it. And then Bhuta Pratyakva is how suddenly the ability to isolate, segregate, protect yourself from your physical ambience or particular condition. And finally, Vishwa Sanghata is having the ability to reach out to reality beyond the reach of your Jnanendriyas or sense organs. These things that we are going to study today, Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Kaivalya, Bhuta Prithatvani. So that is a Bahuvachana, Bhuta Prithaktva, three things, Nadi Sanghara. So what he is saying is, look, how do I practice or achieve Bhuta Jaya? First, we will make sense of this. What does it mean to have Bhuta Jaya? And Bhuta Kaivalya and Bhuta Prithaktva. These three siddhis you want to practice, you have to do pranayama, nadi sanghara, a different kind of methods of breathing and doing pranayama in order to practice this. Now, let's start with the basic britti and then we'll go to other commentaries. Nadinang pranadi bahininam madhyanadyam sangharaha. So you have these different prana, bana, vyana, udana, samana, whatever, all these nadis that you're talking about, he's saying madhyanadyam sangharaha. In Susamna, you're trying to submerge them. Bhutanam jayo. And what is Bhuta Jaya? Bilinata apadanam. So you're able to dissolve them. They get immersed in the Susamna. Bhuta Kaivalyam Chittasya Tataha Pratyaharanam. Bhuta Kaivalya. Kaivalya is uniqueness, kind of, you're different, you're separate from this. So It's not physical withdrawal, but through pranayama, the mind is no more affected by whatever is around, whether it's hot or it's cold, or some people are noisy, or some people are having an agitated conversation. You are absolutely not affected by it. Now, I have read, you can also Google and find it, some guy who is a professor in psychology in somewhere in America. I'm not being able to locate that paper again. He has apparently written a paper on some spiritual practices of Mahatma Gandhi. He apparently also had a tantric guru, and he was practicing one of these siddhis that he was having, and he records it. And there is evidence that Mahatma Gandhi was able to switch off his senses to external physical events, including sound. So he could be in a crowd and he would be writing his letters, or he could be sitting at the spinning wheel that he had, but he will be completely unaffected. It's a kind of pathological isolation of the mind from something which is immediate around him, but he was least affected. And according to that professor of psychology who has written that paper, he's saying that there is recorded evidence that Mahatma Gandhi could switch off his mind. He did have yogic practices, he was doing it, even though he didn't reveal it to anyone. That's what he captures. Bhutanam jayo is saying Bhuta Kaivalyam Chittasya Tataha Pratyaharanam, withdrawal of the mind. And then what? Bhuta Prithaktam. What is Bhuta Prithakta? We'll go in a more elaborate manner. This is a very brief vritti which is given at the top. Bhuta Prithaktam Tad Anuparakta. You are absolutely not affected. You are not uparakta. You are not influenced, not at all influenced by anything around you. Swachha, Swachanda Chidatmata. And then this is Bhuta Pruthaktva. Is it possible for a child to sit quiet when drum beats are there and there is a Dasera Visharjan, that whole, what is it called? The procession is going. The baby will, anyone who is above 2 will run and shout at the mom, take me there. I want to see what's happening there. Same child, if he's in class 10th, he has board examination, or he's writing in India, he's writing an IIT or medical examination. All this is happening. He's not interested. He switches off, TV and everything, and shuts the door from all sides, and wears some earbuds and stuff like that to completely isolate himself to be able to sit and prepare for it. He has no interest. He is able to hold his mind back to what he's doing because he's more serious about it. These are conditional. A person who has lost somebody who is very dear one, and then is going. Imagine there is a Dasera procession. Somebody has a mom sitting in a hospital. Is he absolutely affected by it? No, he is more bothered about his loved one who is in the hospital, or somebody who has left him, or something. Or somebody has left home. He's looking for him, or he has dropped his purse. Is he bothered about anything else? These are conditional withdrawal of the mind, which we experience from time to time. When we are able to do it without any such trigger, where it's a self-triggered isolation or withdrawal of the mind, that is what is the subject matter of yogic science. It's not externally imposed on us, this sort of a mental isolation. This is self-triggered because you want to experience what? Swachanda Chidatmata. You have that purity of your consciousness and you experience it. Etani yogina bhavaniyani. All this should be practiced by one yogi. Iti sheshaha. So this is Anava Upaya. He's not boasting what siddhis you can achieve. That we have done in the first chapter, in Sutra number 28. You can go back and look at the commentary, and we have had a very good discussion on that. Here he's saying that this is what is doable. That means you should do, all of us need to practice it. Then only we can go to the next level. So this is a very minimum condition. So let's look at the commentary here. यथा ध्याया विधानो यह संहारो उपायः dhyana avidhana. So, what we understand by dhyana is that whole kalanam sanghara. You do kala sanghara, how do you do it? How do you dissolve everything back into your consciousness? How do you practice it? He's explaining it. He's saying Sangharopayaha Purva Sutrena Darshitaha, whatever was mentioned in the Purva Sutra, Tatha Pranayamadi Samadhi Paryantat, starting with Pranayama until you attain Samadhi, Anyan Upayan Pradarshayati. What are the other steps that we have to practice is detailed and explained here. Nadi Sanghara, Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Kaivalya, Bhuta Pruthaktwani. The 4 steps, 4 types you have to do. One is strictly about pranayama, Nadi Sanghara. Then what are the other techniques related to it? Emanates from there, it goes one step above and then starts with pranayama. Nadi Sanghara Adini Yogina Nirantaram Bhavaniyani. Nirantara, that's not that you do one day and then don't do for the rest of your life, but you have to consistently do this. Nadina, what is that? Pranapana. Pranapanadi Bahininam Susinam Sangharaha. So you will do this Nadi Sanghara. Arthat, what does it mean? Purakadi Parishalinina. So you know pranayama, how do you do? Reshaka, Puraka, and Kumbhaka. That is explaining. Bahya Abhyantare. So you have Bahya Pranayama externally, and you have also Abhyantar Pranayama, which is a little more technical here things. It's not so easy. You have Bahya Pranayama, and then internally there are certain meditation techniques. Abhyantare Prasarana Rupa Rupata Rahitam. Yan Melanam Etaduktya Ekasmine Udanagni Sorupinyam Madhyanadyam Bilinata Apadanam. So he's saying, you know, all these pranapana, all these vayus, then you have to do, they will be dissolved in the Udana vayu. What exactly they do, how they reach it, that is a subject matter of practice. Here there is some inkling as to what to do and how to do it. Ayam bhavaha, he's saying, this is what you have to understand. Dirghakala paryantam, for a long time, kumbhaka pranayama abhyasanena. So you will do kumbhaka pranayama. What is kumbhaka? So there are 3-4 important books about this pranayama where we get information about it. One is the Yoga Sutras. There is some mention. And then there is a book called Hatha Yoga Pradipika. There are some advice on pranayama. There is a Gheranda Sanghita, again a dialogue between Lord Shiva and Parvati. They give some ideas. And Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And there are certain aspects of the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra also deals with it. And all these Kashmiri Shaivism books, here Shiva Sutra, then Swachhanda Tantra, Magni Vijottara Tantra. There are different books and subtle points are being made here and there. Only on pranayama one can do a PhD as to how different ideas have been expressed and what are the insights there. So what he's saying, kumbhaka pranayama abhyasanena. When you do kumbhaka, that means you have bahya kumbhaka and anta kumbhaka. So you inhale, you hold the air, that is anta kumbhaka, or you breathe out and you hold your breath, that is bahya kumbhaka. Sarvanadishu visharanam sila pranavayu udane praliyate tadavahi tatva tasang nadi sanghara iti upacharyate. This is upachara. This is what is being explained, because when you do this kumbhaka, bahya kumbhaka and anta kumbhaka and whatever, this whole thing, the air system in you becomes still and it stabilizes in that udana vayu. Then he's explaining the details. Tathacha dakshina nasa margena rechakam kuryat. Now you know you have sabya and apasabya. Sabya is the left one, apasabya is the right one. So like for example, we are doing any puja, anything, so our thread is on the right thing, we call it sabya. And then if you are doing any pitru karmas, you have to do this. This is apasabya. So he's saying what? Dakshina nasa margena, that means apasabhya. You try to do nasika margena rechakam kuryat. You breathe out. So generally, I mean, this is something very basic. So there's a lot of school of thought. Many of these yoga teachers, they advise us that first, in fact, you start with breathing out because there's a lot of carbon dioxide sitting in you, which is creating a kind of a negative ambience within it. In the whole pranic environment within is kind of having a negative thing because you have a lot of dead carbon dioxide sitting inside. So breathe out to clean up the system. Once you have breathed out, then you breathe in. Then when you're breathing in, you put your thumb on the right nostril, breathe in through the left nose. This is Puraka. And then you hold it like this. These you can keep straight. You hold it like this and Rechakam. Then you leave through this one. And then you will hold together and then you again stop. You try to do Bahya. You first take this, then you'll hold for some time, then you leave. If you're holding inside, that is Anta Kumbhaka. You leave, then you hold again, that is Bahya Kumbhaka. So both you can do. So he's saying what? He's saying Tathas Dakshina Nasika Margena Reshakam Kuryat, Bama Nasika Margena Bayu Puranam Kuryat. That means you will breathe inside. Itham Nirantaram Kriyamanam Etat Kramena Nadinam Abhimukta Margasya Ba Madhyadhamnah Parishodhanam Kumbhaka Rupa Vayu Prasamanam Sanjayate. So when you do this and you practice that Kumbhaka thing, is explaining that you become perfect in it. Bhuta Jaya Nama. What is that Bhuta Jaya? Bhuta means what? This Pancha Bhuta, right? So there is a very short book. If anybody can find who can understand, this is not translated to Oriya, but it is originally available in Bengali. There is a bookshop in front of Calcutta University. It's called Aurobindo Pathagar. Uh, uh, and that there they publish a lot of books about Anirvan, Sri Anirvan. And Ariman, to my mind, was one of the greatest spiritual practitioners and philosophers, about whom a lot of people don't know. There's only a small group of people in Assam and Bengal who are trying to translate all his 3-volume Veda Mimamsa. But uh, he was a spiritual revolutionary. So he has written a very short book called Antar Yoga. In that small Antar Yoga, and then he had also written this book by Leslie Raymond, a French lady, who wrote a book called Living Within, about her time spent with Sri Anirvan. There are few, and it is published in Bengal as Letters from a Baul, because he saw himself as a Baul. He was a disciple of Sri Nigamananda. He left sannyasa behind and he became a free-floating spiritual guru and a master and a great scholar and author. He has, in fact, given some guidance in that small book, in that Letters from a Baul. I'm seeing that maybe he was already familiar with this Kashmiri Saivism. He had given some ideas on how to meditate on this Prithvi Tattva and a Vayu Tattva and a Jala Tattva and Agni Tattva and a Vayu Tattva and Akasa Tattva, sitting there, how to ascend from one level to the other. I had no clue to Kashmiri Saivism when I read that book about 28 years back. When I first read that book, I liked his method. I tried to practice it. But now I'm understanding that it's already there in the Shastras. He was not an inventionist. He was not inventing something. It's there in the Shastra that we're reading today. So he's saying, Tathats Dakshina Nasika Margena Reshakam Kuryat. Then he's saying, Madhyamana Parishodhanam, he's saying, Bhuta Jaya, what is that? Nama, Khityadinam, Panchabhutanam, Dharanadivihi vasikaraha. Dharana is, a kind of, ekagrata is a very mild word. Dhyana, dharana, samadhi ultimately. So, dhyana, dharana, samadhi, these three together are sanyama in Yoga Sutras. So, he's saying you are becoming one pointed on these five tattvas. So, you sort of put them into your consciousness and you master these principles. This whole external universe is around you. And then you sit, and he guides. Anirvan mentions, for example, he's saying when you're sitting, you try to close your rectal point and you sit in Padmasana. And first tattva that you have to meditate on is the Prithvi tattva. And then after Prithvi tattva, meditate on the Jala tattva inside your body and outside. Meditate on that. And then on the Agni tattva in the navel point. And then you try to meditate on the Vayu tattva. And then finally in the head, in the Sahasrara, you meditate on the Akasa tattva. He gives very specific guidance, very short, beautiful book called Antar Yoga. So it's there also in English, and it's also there in Hindi and in Bengali. Beautiful, very short book. So he's saying Ittam Nirantaram Kriya. So he's saying what? That dharana divihi vashikara. So you would be able to master these five principles which manifest as material realities called Prithvi Tattva and Vayu Tattva and Jala Tattva, etc., through this process of meditation and combined with pranayama. Yaduktam Swachandra Tantre, he's quoting. You see, this commentary is so detailed, so it takes from Shiva Sutra, Vimarshini, and Varadaraj, and everyone. So I'm just looking at it. It's a kind of summary of many commentaries. Vayu Dharananguste. So on the Vayu Tattva, where do you meditate? He's saying on the right foot, on the Angushta, on the toe, feel that Vayu Tattva. Remember, only yesterday we had imagined that to do this Sanghara, how do you, this Kalanam Sanghara? You take the help of Kalagni. The Kalagni Rudra is there in the toe. Now he's saying something else. He's saying you meditate on the Vayu Tattva, Dharananguste. You meditate on the Vayu Tattva there. Agneyi Navi Madhyataha. Agni Tattva meditate because wrong, that Navi is always that fire because Aham Vaishwanar Bhutva Pachaminnam Chaturbhujam Bhagavana said it. So Navi Kamal, if you look at the Navi, that is the fire point in the body. Maheyi Kantha Deshetu. So in the throat, you see, so we are able to speak or anything. It is the water center. That's what he's saying. That the Prithvi Tattva. So in Kantha, he's saying that you meditate on the Prithvi Tattva. Varuni Ghantika Stita. Ghantika is that Uluva. Uluva, when you look at it, that tonsil, that point which is hanging, small piece of flesh. So you meditate on the water Tattva there. Akasa Dhara Mudni Sarva Siddhi Karishmita. And then meditate on this Akasa Tattva there. Remember, earlier we had read about this Anahata, where you will meditate on A and Ha and you write all the Varnas. So this is a complete thing. We are not, it's not that you are not having any yogic work to do in your Anahata Chakra or the Muladhara Chakra. So you have a lot of work. Here there is a specific set of meditations. Bhuta Kaivalya, then he's explaining, Bhuta Kaivalyo Nama, what is it? Bhutebhyo Chittasya Pratyaharanam. Bhuton se Chitta ka Pratyaharanam means withdrawal of the mind. What do you mean by mind? Kala, what do you remember? By Kala, we understand different modes of functioning of the mind. The mind tends to identify with things, tends to engage with realities. And Kala Sanghara means these functionings have to be annulled through this process of reorienting consciousness towards a pure state of being. So the blips, those continuously happen. We return to that spanda, that original thing, the original blinking or the blipping, this whole sansara, that is the upadana karana, and then you go further, and you go up, nada, and then you go further, mahanada. Yesterday we had, last class we have dealt with it. So, and then bhitva kramena sarvani unmanantani yani cha. Unmana state, you remember samana and unmana. Samana, that stage where that final point has got manifested. Unmana is again going further up. That stage of complete ascension. Bhitva kramena sarvani, then you pierce through all these states of certain siddhis. You will get some levels of control and certain levels of spiritual stability. Each stage of stability will have a few powers, and you can use that power to go to the next level, or you can start manifesting, get attention, and expand, create an universe of your own. सर्वाणि उन्मनान्तानि यानि च पूर्वोक्त लक्षणी देवी त्यक्त्वा स्वच्छन्दतां व्रजेत्. Then he's saying purvokto lakshanihi devi tyaktva. So you have to actually renounce everything. You will go to one higher level and renounce it, and go to another level. Finally, you will have swachandatam. What is that swachandavastha? That is what we have lost. That's why we are pashu. And what are these two things? Apurna manyata and swatantra hani. We are even not being able to remember our purna ahanta swabhava. And you will return there. That you will become swatantrata and swachandata, you will all recover. You will leave everything, then you are completely, you will have that Paramashivati. Bhutebhyah prithakvam, he is explaining. Bhuta anusaktasya atmanaha, that atma, that buddhi, which is kind of entrapped in this material ambience, in this setting. Swachhata apadanatvam, arthat sarvani, hrit kantadini yani, unmanantani sthanani, purvakta lakshani bhitva. Through this meditation, so you are meditating on the kantha desa, this prithvi tattva, and then the ghantika, the jala tattva, or you have the toe, the vayu tattva, the navi, the agni tattva, all this, you go beyond that. Bhitva etat sarvam parityajya, leaving this behind, a Mahayogi, Mahayoganishta Purusha, the one who is established in yoga without any vacillation, Pragada Gada Unmanapada Vishranti Prakashad. Pragada Gada, it's not only deep meditation, it's extremely deepest mode of deep meditation in there. Unmanapada Vishranti Prakashad, and he is able to go to that point of ultimate ascension of the consciousness. Turyatita avastha prafti vasad. There is a Turya avastha. We know this in Vedanta. So you have O, U, Ma, then Turya. So O is Jagrat avastha, U is Swapna avastha, and Ma is Susupti avastha. And then that final Om, and then that Ardhamatra. Beyond that, that is the Turya avastha, which is beyond these three avasthas, is the Atma Tattva. In Mandukya Upanishad and Prashna Upanishad, they explain it. Here he is saying they are talking about a avastha which is beyond Turya avastha. Because I tell you that Vedanta is so far foundational understanding of reality is concerned, that's ultimate. When it comes to sadhana, the details are here. More details are here. So he's saying Turya Tita Avastha Prapti Vasad, because he has attained an avastha which is beyond the Turya Avastha. As a result of that, Satchidananda Swarupa Paramashiva Dasam Anubhavati. What does he experience? He is able to experience Satchidananda Swarupa Paramashiva Avastam Anubhavati. He is able to, he cannot see himself anymore as different from Paramashiva. He has completely burned down, dissolved, or completely confiscated, completely rejected, nullified, annulled all limitations and all sense of scarcity and difficulty and inconvenience which is associated with human consciousness. These are problems of human consciousness. When we go to that consciousness, it's not escapism, by the way. It has to be made very clear. Because there is no escapism, there is no drugs, there is no sleep or anything. You're consciously moving beyond all that with full understanding. What they hold for me is very limited, and therefore I want to experience something which is more superior. So therefore he goes and he's established there. Bhuta Sandhana, And he's saying, do you know? I've already mentioned that in the verse now, the sutra number 20th in the first chapter. Bhuta Sandhana Ityadi Sutrina Prathama Unmese Yaduktam. Whatever I have explained to you in the Sambhavapaya, in the Prathama Unmesha, in the first chapter, Tattu Sambhavapaya Purnataha Pravishtasya Yoginaha Sahaja Yatnena Eva Jayate. With very little effort, they reach there. Why? They are advanced students. They have already graduated, they have gone beyond Saktopaya. That is what the first chapter we dealt with. So he's saying they quickly reach there. Anava upayastu yatna sadhyo asti ayam eva bhedaha. You want to do what you want to do? You want to do Nadi Sanghara, Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Kaivalya, and Bhuta Pruthaktva. Oh, really? Very good. Happy to say that you can do it. But remember, it requires hours and days and months of sadhana and your ability to focus on each of these elements that you want to perfect. So with all lot of practice, you will be here, and yet the results may not be consistent. However, by doing this, why should I be interested to do it? By doing this, I'm laying the foundation for lifting my consciousness to Bheda Bheda Avastha. This is Bheda Avastha. I am here, I want to reach there, I am doing this sadhana. But that Bheda Bhedatmaka meditation, which is in Shaktopaya, I'll go there, from there I'll graduate to the Abheda Avastha, the Sambhavapaya. So they will reach there very quickly. I don't fancy those sadhanas, siddhis, but I will do these sadhanas, and why to do it, he's explaining with a lot of effort he is explaining. Most of these things that we dealt with, and we will look at a little more from other commentaries before we stop our discussion with these. Now, each one word a little more. What Kshemaraja says, Nadi Sanghara, Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Kaivalya, Bhuta Pruthatvadini Yogina Bhavanyani Tishesa, that we have already done it. What does he mean by Nadi Nam? Nadi Yoka, what does it mean? He's saying, look, so prana, apana, all these vayus are there. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. And they have different functions. We have studied that. Now, these are those nadis which carry them. That sanghara means through pranayama is not destroying them. So, being able to establish them, udana banyatma. So, in that susamna nadi, being able to, you have that Ida, Pingala, and Shusamna. So he's in that Madhyama Nadi, the main thing, trying to bring these nadis and their functionings and into a resolution point. That is what is Sanghara here. And whatever we have done is Swachanda Tantra, he's again quoting same thing. So he's explaining, Apasabyena Puryeta, Sebyaneva tu Rechayet, Apasabyena Puryeta. So you'll inhale with Apasabya, right nose. Sabyaneva tu Rechayet. With Sabya, that means there's some either, no, we have to do Anvaya differently because he has written, whatever he has written doesn't make sense, because actually Sabyena eva tu rechayat. No, that's not true. You have to do apasabyena rechayat and sabyena purayat. Apasabyena rechayat. That's what you have to do it. But he said, Nadinang sodhanam yetad tetad moksha marga pathasya cha rechanat puranat rodhat. So you have three kinds of techniques in pranayama: rechana, purana, rechaka, puraka, and rodhana, which is your kumbhaka. Pranayamas tridha smita. There are three kinds of pranayamas. Samanya vahirete tu. Samanyatah, these are external techniques of pranayama. Punascha abhyantare trayah. Similarly, you have abhyantara pranayama of three. Abhyantarena rechyate. Puryata abhyantarena tu nispandam kumbhakam kritva karyaha cha abhyantarastrayah. Similarly, abhyantara pranayama also will be of three kinds: rechaka, puraka, and kumbhaka. Bhuta Jaya, he's explaining what? Now, we have already discussed that. I'm just touching upon because it's some additional commentary. Parthivi Dharana. So, Parthivi Dharana means what? Bhuta Jaya Sabda is explaining. So, the Parthivi thing he's mentioning that you will have that Parthivi, that Kanthi in the Kantadesha. You'll meditate on that Prithvi Tattva. Then you will have Jaya, control over this, that truth to the Dharana. Then Ambhasi Dharana means the Varuni, the Varuna Tattva. Then where you Ghantika, you will have that Jala Tattva. Then you are mastering that. Bhuta Jaya is explaining. Agni Dharana, then you have control over the Agni Tattva. And where you are doing it? In the Nabhi Kamala. And then Vayu Dharana, where you are doing it? That right toe. And then Vayu Tattva, that Bhuta Jaya you are having. Similarly, Akasi Dharana, where? In the Sahasrara. So Vayu Dharananguste Agni Nabhi Madhyatah Mahe E Kantadeshi tu Varuni Ghantika Shrita Akasa Dharanamagni Sarvasiddhi Karismita. So the location of this meditation she is explaining. Then Bhuta Kaivalya. So essentially what we have mentioned, this is again Bhattikar is mentioning Varadaraja, Bhutebhya Kila Kaivalyam. Bhutebhya Kaivalyam, Bhuta Kaivalyam. That means being segregated, being withdrawn from these Bhuta Varga means these Panchatatvas. Kaivalyam, Chitta Pratyahritihi Tataha Bhattikara is explaining. Bhutebhya Kila Kaivalyam, Chitta Pratyahritihi. So that pratyahara of the chitta, of the consciousness from these five elements, that means the reality which is defined with the help of these five tattvas, the mind is able to withdraw itself. Bhutebhya kaivalyam chittasya tata pratyaharanam. That is what Shamaraja's language is. So he's saying, how does that happen? He's explaining a little. Nabhyam hridaya sancharan manaschendriya gocharat pranayamascha turiyantu susanta iti smritaha. Nabhyam hridaya sancharat. You see, in these, you'll pull down all your energies in the Udana thing to the navel point. So you're withdrawing, you see. And then Hridaya Sancharat, the breathing and everything, you take it there. Manascha Indriya Gocharat. And you withdraw the mind from objects of perception. So you have these five Jnanendriyas and they are the Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, Sparsha, whatever. Right? So Sabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Five Tanmatras, five objects of perception. You withdraw your mind from these. Pranayamascha turiyantu shusanta iti smritaha. And you do this. Then that your pranayama is leading you towards inner peace. Then he's saying, Evam dhyana vidhayo yaha sangharopaya iritaha evam etat pradhanangsha pranayama purasaran anyan samadhi paryantan upayan darsayatyasau nadi sanghara bhuta jaya bhuta kaivalya bhuta pruthaktwani. So he is writing it in a poetic form. Whatever we have discussed, he has written that. Bhavaniyani yuktena sadhakena iti sisyate pranadi vahinadinam sansaraha prana sanyamat. By doing that pranayama, that that sanyama, that pranayama, that disciplining of your breath, you are trying to meditate on each of these sattvas, and then you're basically, this whole science is about a science of resolving things, a kind of resolution. One-pointedness we achieve, and then we see the magic. Right now, we are kind of all over the place. It's like a mirror cannot show the face of a person because it's broken into 1,000 pieces. And the same consciousness, when it's reunified, then it enables us to see our real nature, our weaknesses, our strengths, a lot of things which will otherwise baffle us, trouble us, put us in inconvenience. They just appear as irrelevant when we have better understanding of who we are and where we are going. He's saying, yeah, Rechakadi kromotpadat udana dahanatmani madhya nadyam bilinatva apadana tanmayatvatah भूतानां भूजलादीनां जयो यः स उदीर्यते वायवी धारणाङ्गुष्ठे आग्नेयी नाभिमध्यतः माही कंठदेशे तु वारुणी नाभिमध्यतः आकाशधारणामूर्ध्नि सर्वसिद्धिकरी स्मृता. We have dealt with all this. He's saying that when you do with a lot of focus and attention, you are being able to practice all these tattvas, then this bhuta jaya, what it means, you will be able to experience. And iti swachhanda shastravakta, swachhanda tantra, this is mentioned, dharana vir vasikriti bhutebhya kila kaivalyam chitta pratyahritis. And he's saying swachhanda tantra has said this, you are able to do this, then the bhuta kaivalya you will be able to master. Pruthakvam tad analipta swachhatvatmakai swachatvatmeka rupata. So pruthakvam, what is that bhuta pruthakvam? That tad analiptatvam. So you are not affected by it. That's one aspect of it. Then analipta means swachha. The very nature of the swarupa of our consciousness is swachha. You know, in Vedanta, they give a beautiful example. You have a crystal, it's white. Then you bring a green piece of cotton close to it, it looks greenish. You bring a rose, it looks reddish. But the color of the crystal is none of these. It's bright white, nothing. It has no color of its own. But it gets affected. Similarly, what he's saying is that analiptatva, that is bhuta prataktva. So when we are able to disengage from whatever is around us, return to the swarupa of our consciousness through pranayama, and by practicing the single-mindedness or making our consciousness one-pointed. I mean, you can do it even with some bit of meditation. It's not impossible to experience it, but you can experience in greater degree with more fruitful outcomes when we do it for a longer period of time. It doesn't happen in a day. There would be a few days, let me tell you, where your meditation will be very good, you know, especially when you are taking very light diet and you do exercise. So they do nadi suddhi, bhuta suddhi. There are different practices. I think I was just reading it, and I think that in the next class I'll pay a little attention to these aspects, because these are basics of yoga sciences. Any teacher will tell you, and you can also find it on the internet. You can read it in other books. So these are a lot of preliminary practices they do. Like, for example, we do Sankha Prakyalana, cleaning of the system from acidity and all kinds of things, and putting the body into a perfect balance situation. Then we sit in meditation, boom, it happens. Very quickly we are able to establish ourselves there. That's from a physicalistic point of view, when you are dealing with the acids and the juices and stuff like that, and the physical health aspect. But there are also times when you have let go. There was some obsession with some situation or job or finance or this and that, and then you have that let go approach. You know, you're ready to come out of some kind of a toxic situation or whatever, and you have practiced some disengagement. Another way of disengagement, the best to my mind, is to not disengage with anything, but to re-engage with the divine. That is through japa. So, you know, Neem Karoli Baba used to say, kya sadhana karege? You don't have to do anything. You do your job, feed the poor, love all, tell the truth, and take Ram Nam. Because he was harping on something very fundamental. Because in everyday life, when you have a job to do, you have children to look after, you have responsibilities, you don't have time. I mean, it's great that you are having time for entering into such difficult texts, but the minimum that all of us have to do is, in fact, to sit for a while and take the holy name. And that is the best way to disengage the mind from the soul thing, that Nadi Sanghara, Bhuta Jaya, Bhuta Kaivalya, Bhuta Prataktva. These things are much easier with Ishvara Prasada. Bhutebhya kila kaivalyam chitta pratyahritistatah prithakvam tad analipta swachha swatmaikat रूपता भूत संधान इत्यादि श्रुतोक्तम यत फलम पुरा. जो पहले हम बता दिए हैं भूत संधान, and then that is saying he's saying Bhuta Sandhana, Bhuta Prithakva, and Bhuta Sangata. Mentioned in the Sutra number 20th. He's saying Aprayatnena Sadhyam, that they will do without much effort. Ichha Sambhova Upaya Salinaha. The Sambhova Upaya is just game of willpower. Whatever they want happens because they have done the legwork already. They are perfect themselves. Then what he's saying, Anavapaya Sadhyam tu Yatnena iti Vishishyate. This is what is written in Swachanda Tantra. He's saying, my boy, you are in Anavapaya, you have to do a lot of practice. There is no escape from it. That is what he's saying. Nabhyam Hridaya Sansaran, Manaschindriya Gocharan, Pranayamascha Turyastu, Susanda iti Smritaha. So he's saying what? Hridayan Nabho Pranasya. So from heart, Navo Pranasya, the Pranavayu, you have to dissolve it here. Visebhya Manasascha Tatreva Sancharanat Ityartha. Withdraw the mind from the objects of different kinds of perception. Bhuta Pratakta, Bhutebhya Pratakvam, Tad Anuparakta, Swachha, Swachanda Chitatmata. We have already dealt with all this. So there is nothing else. So let me see, is there anything else? Bhitva Kramena Sarvani, Unmanatani Yanicha, Purvokta, Lakshmi Devi, Tyaktva Swachandatam Raja. That also we have already done it. So he's saying that Kemara says that Bhusa Sandhana, Bhuta Pratakva, Vishwa Sanghatta, whatever we have dealt in the Sutra number 20th, in the first chapter, that is achieved without much effort. However, what we are discussing in this sutra, we have to do a lot of practice to be able to reach there. That is, there is something he's quoting from Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and I think this is something interesting to pay attention to. See, sometimes when I look at the picture of Lord Hanuman, you see, he's the master of mind. So you want to control your mind. A lot of people actually do Upasana of Hanumanji. Remember, he is actually Pavanaputra. So the principle of dynamic energy, which is all expansive, can go anywhere, is a kind of a symbolic representation, the son of Pavanaputra. So he's saying a beautiful thing that all pranayama, everything is to do with Vayu. Marute madhya sansare manastaryam prajayate. When you have a lot of depression or anxiety or some kind of a panic attack, there are a lot of experts who have now come to a conclusion about one quick way of dealing with a kind of a panic attack or anxiety or anything is just rhythmic, long breathing for some time. Mind stabilizes. The kind of biochemical changes which influence our negative, depressive thought process get stopped. If you can do a bit of physical activity, that is even better. So if somebody is panicking, and it happened with me once, somebody who called me up and I heard him, and he was imagining something is going to happen. He was sitting in his office and he was telling to me, I said, have you had your lunch? He said, no. He said, why don't you go have lunch and then call me up and we talk? So he went to have lunch and he didn't call me back. I knew that he'll be better because once you walk, because you are on the 10th floor or 20th floor and then you're going down, you go by a lift, and you walk around and it's a different atmosphere, and then you have your lunch and maybe you go for a smoke, whatever, if you're stressful, and you have a coffee or anything, then you're going back. There is some kind of there's movement of air in the body, there's blood circulation, and things slowly fall to place. This is what happens through pranayama as well. So that is saying Marute Madhya Sansare Manastaryam Prajayate. You want to pacify your mind, which is very irritated for whatever reasons. One good way to deal with it, not to beat the mind, saying don't think about it, don't think about that. It will continue to think. But focus attention to pranayama, do breathing, and then the mind automatically this you can actually advise your students. It really does work if you work with your students on this. Yo manaha sustiro bhavaha saivavastha manonmini. So yo manaha sustiri bhavaha, and then when the mind has stabilized, saivavastha Manonmani, that avastha itself is what, this is Hatha Yoga Pratipika. And then he's explaining about this Nadi Shodhana. Vidivat Prana Sayamir Nadi Chakre Vishodhite. How do you purify your mind? Through this pranayama, nothing else. Nadi Shodhana is nothing like you, put some water and flush it and clean it up. Susumna badanam bhitva mukhad vishati marutaha. So if you look at Hatha Yoga Pradipita, you will get more. Now there is one interesting twist in the story. By this Bhuta Jaya, we heard about this Prithvi Tattva, Jala Tattva, Agni Tattva, Vayu Tattva, and Akasa Tattva. But what about the Pancha Tanamatras? Because these are Panchikrita Pancha Mahabhuta, which are Stula Bhutas. You're meditating on them. But there are also Sukshma Bhutas. So then what? You can also meditate on those spandana, like for example, sound. So spandana matra, sparshana matra, and rupa tanamatra, right? So sabda, the akasa tattva. So sabda tanamatra, sparsha tanamatra, vayu, rupa tanamatra is agni, and then rasa tanamatra is jala, and gandha tanamatra is prithvi. So you can also meditate on these 5 tanamatras. This is one advanced level of practice. Then with this, we kind of have completed this sutra. We have a couple of minutes. So if you have any questions, you are free to raise. Otherwise, we'll do the Santi mantras. Any questions? Okay. So if there are no questions, then we will do the Santi mantras. Om Purnamada Purnamidhi Purnat Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Om Shanti Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.